Happy Friday! It's Mike from Dark Magical Gaming. Today's video, I'm going to be reviewing Dark Magician support, what I feel like is the most relevant, well, I don't know if I have to go as far as saying relevant, the most well-known Dark Magician support, and the non-archetype specific cards that normally some people do play in their Dark Magician decks. So, we're going to review every card that is on this screen right now, and we're going to start off with Apprentice Illusion Magician. I'm also going to tell you the normal standard number for the cards you would play in here. So, Apprentice Illusion Magician, she is an extender. She searches for Dark Magician. She can bust any Dark Spellcaster by 2,000 during the damage step. Most of the time you play two of this card. The utility that she has, making things where they can't swing over your Dark Magician or your Dragoon, is very strong, as well as being an extender. And if you watched my most recent video, you would know that Apprentice plus Souls equals a 2-card Quintet Magician. So I do like Apprentice, normally run 2. Dark Eradicator Warlock is just one of the more iconic Dark Magician support cards. Each time a normal spell is activated, your opponent takes 1,000. I can't really ever see this card really being used. Dark Magician Girl is used more often for the draw 2 effect of Soul Servant rather than the float effect of the Dark Magicians. I still always like to include this card in my lists because I do think that being able to get the additional benefit of the Dark Magicians with the float effect is very strong. So I do include her. Dark Magician Knight is another card similar to Dark Eradicator Warlock. You'd probably never see this in a competitive-based Dark Magician deck. Whenever he is special summoned, he pops a card on the field. He has to be summoned through Knight's Title. You'd only ever use one of these cards if the archetype got some kind of card that was so just absurd that it required you to play one of these. So, Dark Magician of Chaos is a card that I really wish you could still use in this deck. Unfortunately, his new errata kind of just ruined it because I've always wanted to use this card in tangent with Dedication. Dark Sage, once again, just a card that's just from pretty much the anime. You'd probably never be able to play this card. Legion of the Fiend Jester. If you're not familiar with this card, here's the effect. Basically gives you an additional normal summon for a spellcaster, additional tribute summon, and if he is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can add a normal spellcaster from your deck or graveyard to your hand. I could see this card being used eventually, just because of the synergy with this card. So you can normal summon this guy, link him off into Artemis, and search a Dark Magician. So, kind of cool. Magician of Dark Illusion used to be a staple 3 of in Dark Magician decks. This was kind of your original extender. Then we got this card, and most recently we got this card. So I don't really see this card being used anymore, as well as Magician's Robe. In the beginning he was decent, but he was nothing compared to Magician's Rod. This guy right here, if he was ever actually used in a deck, you'd probably play 2 or 3, depending on how important getting this card to your hand was. This is probably, in my opinion, a 3 or a 0, and I probably wouldn't recommend using this card at all. Robe is normally a 1 or a 0. Rod's almost always a 3, along with Magician Souls is always a 3. Palladium Oracle Mahad and Palladium Oracle Mana. If you ever really want to try to get the most benefit out of Soul Servant, you could try playing these cards. I wouldn't recommend it because you're just simply adding more bricks to a deck that's already full of bricks anyway. But they're definitely not the worst support cards for the archetype. Loza, the guy that recently got 117th place day 2 at the YCS, chose to play Mana over Dark Magician Girl because she's less of a brick. Skilled Dark Magician, this is just kind of a meme. This card would never be played, like I said about this and this, unless something came out that warranted playing this card, such as like add a Dark Magician card from your deck to your hand, like a quick play spell, then summon a skilled Dark Magician, place 2 counters on it. He would just be played more of an engine requirement more than anything. My nose is very itchy, and I don't know why. I'm sorry. Sorcerer of Dark Magic. Technically isn't a Dark Magician card, not searchable through the archetype. I chose to put it in this video just because I kind of felt like it fits the theme, but I don't see this guy being played anymore, or rather at all. So, the Spellbook Engine, I'm actually currently playing this, and this, all at these numbers, 1, 1, and 1 in my current Dark Magician deck, just because I felt as if I needed more starter cards. I do like this. I don't think I'd go as far as playing Crowley, but I do like him in the deck. Vishuda, if you know, you'd know if you watched my last video, that Vishuda plus Souls is essentially outs 5 cards just with these two, because you'll summon Vishuda, you will summon Dark Magician off of Magician Souls, you will XYZ2 into Dracosac, detach Vishuda, summon 2 Mecha Phantom Beast tokens, use Vishuda's graveyard effect since you control a token, which is a non-effect monster, and bounce a card. Then you use Dracosac's effect to tribute a token to pop a card. Then you link your last Mecha Phantom Beast token into Link Spider. Use Link Spider and Dracosac to make Verde, summon Dragoon, use Dragoon to pop 2 more cards, and then use Dragoon to attack over a card. So, and maybe sometimes Verde too. So this guy is a great extender. I do like what he brings to the table for this deck. I currently am playing him at 3 in my deck, just because I wanted to be able to go away from playing traps and go into more of a proactive build. The tunes, good in their own archetype, not so much in our deck. And lastly, we have Dark Magician, as far as the pretty much normal, so to speak, monsters to play in Dark Magician. This is normally always a 2 of. There's a lot of debate in the Dark Magician group on Facebook about whether this card should be played at 2 or at 3. I feel like 95% of the time this card is always played at 2. He's honestly nothing more than an engine requirement. Kind of sucks to say that, but you never really want to see this guy in your hand unless you're going to combo with it, and you never really want to open this card. So I always say stick with 2. Magician of Black Chaos is just in here for nostalgia, normally a 0. Kind of the same thing with Chaos Max and Chaos. I did try running this card 1 week, just to be able, because at the time I was playing Dogmatica Punishment, and I wanted to be able to have a way to make a big push without having to go into my extra deck, and it's just drawing him. Drawing him just stinks, so I wouldn't recommend playing him. These right here are the ones that I really like. These are probably some of my favorite cards in the entire archetype. Bond between teacher and student is the one, along with Dark Magic Attack, that I think are the most playable, because if you're playing Dark Magician Girl, I've actually played this in a build of mine before, and it just kind of gives you the most value if you are playing this card. It kind of just turns this into a pseudo emergency teleport along with this card. These other ones, though, I don't think you'd ever end up using. This actually is my favorite artwork in the whole archetype, but unfortunately it's just a little too gimmicky in my opinion. Dark Magic Curtain, probably you'll never see any play at all, because Fusion Deployment does the exact same thing with half the cost of this card. Dark Magic Expanded is another one of my favorite cards that I never play. I have tested it. It's not bad, but it just adds a card to your deck that essentially does nothing on turn 1. So I probably would recommend 1 or none. Dark Magic Inheritance essentially is the same thing as Rod, but does not require a normal summon. I have a build that Duelist Academy made for me that's focused more around spells that plays this card, because you need your normal summon for Girasu, which we will get into, and also Black Metal, we'll get into those. So this is a 0 or probably like a 2 if your build can play it. We already talked about this card. Dark Magic Veil is just a spellcaster specific monster reborn, but it can go from hand. So if you're going to play this, I probably wouldn't recommend more than 1. Dark Magical Circle, the great debate of 1, 2, or 3. I don't think any number is incorrect. I'll be honest with you. I don't think there's no set standard for this card. I've played 1 and done fine with it. I've played 2 and done fine with it. And I've played 3 and done fine with it. So this just boils down to player preference. Me personally, I don't ever think you need more than the first copy. So I think 2 is perfect. I think you can get by with 1. And I think 3 is a little too cloggy in my opinion. We already talked about Dedication. Fusion Deployment, already talked about. Illusion Magic was one of the first cards that came out for the archetype, basically being able to grab Dark Magician. There is a build for this deck that's focused around stunning your opponent through Mystic Mine with this card, because you can tribute off your stuff to be able to search for Dark Magician, in turn getting monsters off your field. So that's kind of cool. Normal builds, probably none. And as far as this card goes, if you play this, I'd play 3. Knight's Title, 0. Probably wouldn't ever recommend playing this. Magicalized Fusion for your second Dragoon or your Dark Magicians. Normally a 1 of. The Magicians package, I have tested this before. I do like how this is an extender, and I think both of these cards are actually very strong. And this card being able to basically be free food to discard or to send from the field for souls is very strong. The pot cards, I wouldn't recommend Desires because you have cards you don't want to banish. I wouldn't recommend Extravagance because you play a lot of 1-ofs in your extra deck. The one I could probably see playing the most is Prosperity. Just mainly because it has some synergy with Soul Servant. You can basically, if you have Prosperity with Soul Servant, you can always Prosperity for 3. Chain Soul Servant, get the card that you want. I probably wouldn't recommend playing these. If you chose to play this, it's probably 1, or it's probably 3, or none. Let's see here. So, moving along, we have Secret Village of the Spellcasters. I actually played this in my first place build from last weekend, and this card is very high risk, very high reward. So either you go first, you see it with Dragoon and you win, or you go second and you brick on it. So I'm always somewhere on the fence about this card. Either 0 or 3, I think, in my opinion. Secrets of Dark Magic is often a heavily debated card, whether or not it should be included in the deck. This card technically is a -2 by pure card mechanic. But the amount of games that I have won with this card, having Dark Magician and Red Eyes in my hand, and being able to make Dragoon off of this, searched off of Rod, I think I'll always play this in my deck, especially because it kind of gives you that OTK factor that this deck normally wouldn't have. Sky Striker package is a 1-card Verde into Dragoon. I will play this in every build of Dark Magician I have. I know it doesn't fit into the archetype, but I think for the deck, being able to summon Dragoon and at the same time put Dark Magician in the graveyard is just very strong. So I will continue playing this. Maximum copies, so 1 apiece. Soul Servant is pretty much always a 3 of. It's the best card in your deck. It is only an extender in my opinion. It doesn't do anything by itself without other cards like Circle or already having one of these in your graveyard. Keep in mind that with Soul Servant, it checks both players' graveyards, the same with Dark Magician Girl. So if your opponent has made Dragoon this match and you have Dark Magician Girl in your graveyard by herself, you can still draw 2 cards because they have Dark Magician in their graveyard. We've already covered the spellbooks. Successor Soul is basically a retrain of Dark Renewal. If you were going to play this card, I would recommend playing 3 of it, or none. And most of the time I go toward none. Eye of Tomius is also a very heavily debated card amongst players on Facebook. If you're new to the deck, this card is actually not searchable through the Dark Magician archetype, as it says target 1 Dark Magician monster, and not Dark Magician. So, unfortunately, Rod, Soul Servant, and Dark Magical Circle cannot get this card. So, unsearchable, you have to draw it. In theory, I guess this card is okay. It just never seems to work out the way you'd think it would, because this already requires you having either Souls or Fusion Deployment or something like this to already put Dark Magician on the field. In my opinion, this card's a 0. Thousand Knives and Dark Magic Attack don't see a lot of play. I think this one sees more play than this. They're searchable off your engine as well as Eternal Soul. If I was going to play one of these, I'd definitely play this. Sometimes in my builds I have included a copy of this, if nothing else, to be able to have it to search off Eternal Soul, to be able to discard for Dragoon. So, probably 0. 0 or 1. If you want to be nostalgic and play it, you can play 1. Upstart Goblin. I think this card does belong in our deck because of the synergy it has with Soul Servant and Dark Magical Circle. Max copy 1. Dark Renewal, none. Destined Rivals. Destined Rivals is the card that disappointed me the most for Dark Magician. If this card had just been a quick play spell, it would have been so much better. This card I feel like is probably a 0 to a 1. Eternal Soul is also heavily debated. I've played 1, I've played 2, I played 3, and I've come to the conclusion I like 1 the best because it is very bricky. You never want to see it turn 1. You always want to search this card. It bricks your hands. It doesn't do anything on turn 1. You can't activate it. One of my dream cards for this deck would be a card similar to the Virtual World City spell that would be able to play Eternal Soul from the deck face up and then have a secondary effect, whatever that might be. So anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3, whatever works best for you. Magician's Navigation is a card that I have really wanted to believe in for a while, but needless to say, normally disappoints me. So this is either a 0 or a 1. Kind of the same thing with Combination. I've tested this card a lot, and I've come to the conclusion it just requires a little too much setup. So 0 or 1. Okay. Getting into the other cards, these are cards that are like a little less archetype specific. Black Metal Dragon by itself is a 1-card Verde in the same sense that the Sky Striker package is. So you normal summon Black Metal, you link Black Metal into Striker Dragon. Black Metal searches you Red Eyes Darkness Metal Dragon. Then you use Darkness Metal to Striker, summon himself, bring back the Metal Dragon, and then you link 2 for Verde. So it does the same thing. I don't like this build that much. This is kind of the Duelist Academy build that plays like Red Eyes Insight and stuff like this. It's basically just Dragoon Turbo. The Dogmaticas, I think, are probably the best build of Dark Magician because of the synergy that they have. If you do choose to play this, I didn't play Fleur-de-Lis, but if you want to play it in synergy with Secret Village, you could play Floor. That way you can kind of always make sure this card's live. So I'd probably play 1, 1, and 3. Girasu, the Orcus Mech Knight, is also a 1-card Verde that also plays around Ash, which is really cool. So whenever he's normal summon, you can either dump an Orcus or a World Legacy card from your deck to the graveyard. So normally what you do with this is you normal summon Girasu, you declare the effect to send. If they Ash, it's completely fine. You just baited their Ash. If they don't Ash, you just send another copy of himself because it doesn't say that you can't. Then you use a secondary effect, summon a token to both players' side of the field, link the token into either Link Spider or Link Karibo, and make Verde. So, Dark Paladin, one of my favorite fusions. You'd probably never see much play. Mysterian the Dragon Crown is a card that I think eventually we'll see play in the deck. Just not so much right now. You can play it if you want to. He's normally a 1-of. Anaconda, we already know about this guy. I've actually went up to playing 2 in my deck. I haven't really needed the second one that often, but you definitely at least need 1. Nadir Servant, 3-of. These next few cards I'm not going to give a lot of explanation on. Super Poly, it's normally either 0 to 2 or 3. Punishment, if you play it in Tangent with the Dogmaticas, is normally a 3-of. IDP is normally a 3-of. Strike's normally a 3-of. Torrential's normally a 3-of. If you're playing Trap Trick, you can get away with playing 2 Torrential and 2 Punishment and 2 Prison. And then Witch's Strike is normally just a side deck card. But I do very much believe in this card. Extra deck Sky Strikers. You need these 3 to be able to do the 1-card Verde. Mduck, in most cases, I feel like outclasses Link Spider just by being a dragon for Magicalized late game. And a little known combo, in case something does happen, Red Eyes Fusion gets banned, is if you open up Souls plus any other extender, normal summon, whatever, you can still make Dragoon even without Red Eyes Fusion. So you can summon, let's just say, take for instance, it can be anything. So we're going to say Skilled Dark Magician. You normal summon Skilled Dark Magician. You use your Magician Souls effect. You send Dark Magician from the deck to the graveyard. You special summon Dark Magician. You link Dark Magician into Mduck. Then you link Mduck and Skilled Dark Magician into Verde. Use Verde's effect to pay 2,000, send Magicalized Fusion, banish Dark Magician and Mduck, and summon Dragoon. So, that's another combo that we have come up with so far in case Red Eyes Fusion gets banned. Artemis, Lord help him. Lord help the people that will not play Artemis. I don't understand. Please play Artemis. You are just handicapping yourself by not playing this card. This card is so good in Tangent with Rod. There's no reason to not play this card. There's no reason to not play this card in this deck. There's no reason. Please play Artemis. At least one. Draco Sack and Ebon. This is part of the combos that I went over in my last video. This outs 5 cards by itself, Vashuda and Souls. And then this card plays into the 2-card quintet. The Dark Magicians, normally a 1 or a 2 of, and these guys are both 1 ofs. Dragoon, this card is just crazy. This card is such a power boost to this deck. People want to call this deck Dragoon.deck, and you know what? That's fine. Yeah, I'm already playing Dark Magician. I'm going to make the most out of playing it. I'm going to make Dragoon. Quintet Magician, 2 cards. Not a lot to say about him. Dark Magician, the Dragon Knight, isn't as playable as I wish it would. The Dream is traps plus this on the field plus this to make him unaffected, and you can revive him. But normally, whenever I would use this card, I'd send it off Nadir Servant, so I immediately have a Dark Magician in my graveyard. So, or from Dogmatic Punishment. Dark Magician Girl, the Dragon Knight. Played her for a little while, just because I got so sick and tired of seeing Red Eyes and her in my hand. So I wanted something I could make with this, but now I would just play this guy. Dark Flare Knight, we're not going there. Dark Cavalry is more of a super poly target rather than anything, and Amulet Dragon would probably see little to no play, at least while we have Dragoon. And even if Dragoon was banned, I'd probably always be going for this guy at that point. So yeah, that's pretty much the most iconic and relevant support that I can think of. I'm sure this archetype is so huge that I'm sure there are cards that I missed. If you can think of any, please put them in the comments section down below, and I will try to review them in my next video I make doing this. So I hope everyone enjoyed this. I know this is a little bit different of a style of video for me to be doing, but this is something I've wanted to do for a while. I have a new episode of the Dark Magician Journey that is going to come out on Tuesday. This is going to be episode number 7. And I think that I am cutting the series down to 8 episodes rather from 10. You will see in that video my reasoning behind why. I don't want to spoil anything yet, but we managed to accomplish one of our big goals. So I actually think I spoiled it at the beginning of the video, but maybe they'll forget about it. So yeah, look forward to that coming on Tuesday or Wednesday. Hopefully Tuesday. So drop a like, share, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. It really motivates me to make more videos like this, more Dark Magician Journey, more cool montages, things of that nature. So I'd like to thank everyone for being here and everyone for watching. And this is Mike from Dark Magical Gaming signing out.